So, hey, Brendan Nguyen, you are the most brilliant, the most beautiful, the most
Oh my gosh.
wonderful music director of this insane project
Yeah.
called Catapult Opera has thrown at us in these past week and a half. Um,
Yeah, it's really intense.
it's pretty intense, but very, very, very intense is what you've been doing. So
Uh-huh. Yeah.
let's like be clear. So like
Yeah.
what the what the competition said was like, here's the music,
hmm
just like just record yourselves performing it and give it back to us. And so how did you take that to mean that that meant that you needed to reconstruct all of the voices in the orchestra in your piano?
Uh-huh.
How did you
Yeah.
get to that point?
I don't know if
You
I don't know if I had to get there. I've been there. Because well the first red flag of any introduction to a new piece of music is if it's called an orchestra reduction.
Mhm.
Which, typically I don't like, actually. Yeah, I just generally don't. Right? It's annoying. It's not idiomatic, and some players like are really amazing at it. Like our friend Kyle Adam Blair, he can just
Yes.
do it. Right?
He
Yeah,
can just do it.
Uh,
Yeah, people make their whole careers just like
yeah,
playing orchestra
exactly.
reductions
Yeah,
for
and
companies.
there's nothing in this world that doesn't turn me into a toddler faster than seeing a orchestra reduction. So
What?
yes, yeah.
Why? Whatever
Uh-huh.
do you
I know.
mean?
Just anyway. But what's interesting about this orchestra reduction is, well, it's not. It's unlike many pieces, but this particular excerpt that we're producing. Um, there's just like a lot of sustained notes and chords in every instrument, besides the percussion, which is fine on the piano because piano is technically a percussive instrument. But
Yeah, say
yeah,
that. Say that again
oh,
for the back of the
the
house. The
piano
piano.
is a percussion instrument in
Yes.
that it hits things to make the music.
To make the
Yes.
noise.
But one interesting thing about piano, when you start to train to be like an artist, is that you're told over and over and over again. I think Charles Rosen told me this, that like if you you need to always be trying to make the piano not sound like the piano, right?
Hmm.
And so then that's great. Like good pianists can create amazing colors, and um, that would be satisfying to any music listener. Except in this case, um, the notes are sustained for so long, and we could just play the chords and attack them again and again. But that's also sounds nothing like what the piece sounds like.
At the time I made a vow to myself never to let her be stolen from me by that faithless man.
So, okay, so the piano reduction
Mhm.
sounds nothing like what the orchestration sounds like. The orchestration
Yeah,
involves so much more of a rich color palette that is not traditional, right? It doesn't sound. I think you can approximate a Puccini orchestration and get all of that lush texture in a
yeah.
piano,
Mhm.
but these two worlds just do not agree. Right. And
Yeah.
so how did you go about breaking down? Because we were only given the piano reduction score.
Oh
How did you
yeah.
go about get around to kind of breaking down all of the sound worlds and yeah, what was the process there?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just listened to recording many times. It was like I was getting into an album, You're just like listening on repeat, and skipping back 10 seconds and wondering like, oh, what did Alana say? Yeah, so I just sat there and listened and like shoved my earbuds deeper into my ear so I could hear more. It was just like,
We're not covered for your ear hearing loss.
It's okay. It's almost gone anyway. So.
Okay, fine. You're on your own though.
Yeah. So hopefully I heard. I produced what I heard on the. Otherwise, I'm just making shit up. But yeah. So I mean, luckily, at least we had the instrumentation and the score. But I did my best to just kind of figure out where things were being played, what was being played. I just took copious notes in my score. And then that started to look crazy, and then I created like a spreadsheet for it, just to, it's just some extra time I had to wrap my mind around what's going on. Yes, yeah.
I love that spreadsheet.
The spreadsheet, yes.
And it appears now.
Okay.
Yes,
That's right.
I'm going to show that.
It's embarrassing. It's like my...
No, it's not. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, so I make spreadsheets to keep me sane. Because it was a little overwhelming because there's a dozen or so instruments, and I needed somewhere to organize it. Instead of just going, measure by measure recording things, because I was recording everything in layers, I decided I needed to see each layer kind of globally. So I can just do one whole instrument at a time, stay in that instrument world before I move on to the next one. It also helped not to feel like I was actually playing a whole orchestra all at once, because that's also, it's a lot to think
impossible.
about. It's a little impossible, as much as I like to try. Yeah.
I know, but I guess that would be sort of keeping our theme of puppetry, right? You would need several puppeteers in the piano to kind of do the thing that you need to do, and COVID, we can't do that.
COVID.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess so. Let's dive into those worlds. So how did you make the string sounds?
So what's nice about string instruments is that the piano has strings. It just doesn't play them at all like the way we string players generally play strings with bows. So I don't know if you can see. I went to the local Ace Hardware on 6th Ave in downtown San Diego. Great place, wonderful people.
Any good contemporary musician does.
Yes, exactly. So I used a couple of things. I don't have. I used a few types of bowing implements. So I used baker's twine. To give more of a, well, I'll demonstrate so you'll hear kind of the differences in sound, but they all provide different textures. Fishing line, and I got some rosin so that the fishing line had some grip to it, so that they made a sound that sounded anything like a traditional string instrument. Yes, and I was gonna, I'm not gonna rosin for the camera because I don't want to look like an idiot doing it. I don't know how you do that with your hands. So it's being done right now, so that we get to use it. and then what I don't have is this floss that I use. It's the best kind of floss. It's you don't use wax floss. You use the braided kind, but it's really hard to find. But anyway, dentists highly recommend it. They can't push it down my throat anymore. So I'll demonstrate what I did here. So the piano strings are very close together. So I did get some tweezers. Yes. And I just kind of weave it in and then try to pick it up with the tweezers. Hopefully the sound actually comes through. So that was actually pretty quick. The first few tries, it took me a while to... You're benefiting from experience. Okay, so this is... So I'm on 2 strings. But you know what? Oh, hang on. I messed up. Focus in.
Not so quick, are you?
This is, edit that out.
No, I'm not doing that.
All right. Okay, so this is E above middle C.
Okay.
And this is kind of what it sounds like. Let me know if you can hear it. But...
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
hey,
there's
so that's at the
that.
fishing line.
That's at the fishing line. And then
What does the twine sound like? What does the twine sound like?
it's actually really beautiful. It's kind of I'll use the same pitch for
Great.
science.
Science.
It's a little more twangy. There's a lot more texture to the sound. It's almost like a soul concert. Almost. Probably not at all. Okay, okay. And here is the twine.
Yeah, it's definitely more, definitely eerier.
Yeah. You can actually hear that?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, cool. And
It's
then
softer for sure.
yeah,
but,
yeah.
But
And so,
yeah,
and actually, that
texture.
was one of the fun challenges. Is that like the loudness and softness of what was produced was entirely dependent on all the factors that I still can't wrap my mind around.
Yeah.
Like some strings in some locations, produce different sounds. I'm still trying to figure exactly. I know I was like hitting harmonics nodes in certain spots and getting different sounds, but I also think maybe some of my strings need some help. They certainly do now, but yeah. Yeah, and then the wax, the floss, just has like a more, it's not quite like a sine tone, but it's a much cleaner kind of sound.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
And then to that effect, speaking of sine tones, I also got
Mm-hmm.
a thing that I've always wanted. It's an EBO.
That's an
Yes.
EBO. Tell the people what an
And
EBO is.
it is a device. just a just a test. Okay. Primarily used by guitarists.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a like I have like a less than Wikipedia level knowledge of this thing. Other than I've used it before, so I got one. But anyway, it's meant to mimic the sound of a bowed instrument on a guitar by way of like an oscillating electromagnetic science thing in here. So the strings go through this channel, right? It doesn't touch it obviously, but it causes the metal strings to vibrate and create sound. And so on the piano, it's a little more challenging because there's not a lot of clearance. Because like where these little nubbins are, there's also like more strings there. So it
Right.
requires a bit of pressing, and every pitch like is a completely different technique. But let me demonstrate one pitch that works. How about that? Ooh, let's do the C. Ooh, that's quick. And then get all this.
Wow, 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 wow,
Wow,
wow.
wow, wow. Yeah.
But also like the sort of clunkiness of the piano itself. You've got all that framing in there, so you have to kind of,
Yes,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
get all up in its
Yes.
business.
Yeah, my lower back is killing me. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I generally, I love playing, weird, cool new music. I tend to balk at like doing a lot of inside the piano stuff because it's just, it's murder on my lower
It's
back.
physically pretty
Yeah.
demanding, for
Yeah.
sure.
It's really awkward. Like, I don't think the piano was designed with that in mind. So it's a little
Don't think
awkward
so.
and yeah.
I don't think they were thinking about that
Yeah.
at Beethoven's time. So what instrument groupings did you use the EBO for?
Yeah, so basically, we have strings, woodwinds, brass, and percussion instruments, as well as harp and cellist. And cellist it's my third instrument. I'd like to consider.
You should just get one.
Yeah, I know, dude, they're so expensive though. So for the woodwinds primarily, I used the EBO as sort of its core sound. But for a lot of the instruments, I actually layered in a combination of the things that I use. So for an oboe sound, I recorded whatever note it was, one at a time, mind you. Are we going to talk about that? Okay. Yeah, that was like the bedrock sound for the oboe, is the ebo sound. But because the oboe has this sort of, this like nasally quality to it, I also recorded the string by plucking the string as well, to add that. Yeah, that was not.
Oh.
Oh wait, I do that with the metal thing, right, to get that.
Oh. So you would kind of build
Yeah.
together the attack of the pitch and then the sustain with the ebo.
Actually, so because I didn't want the attack of the actual pluck, I would take that out, and
Oh.
it's the few moments right after the pluck where you get that twangy kind of nasally sound,
Yeah.
and I just kind of balanced that with the length of the ebo sound.
Rad.
Yeah, so there's a bit of layering like that. The clarinet, I did a similar thing, used the ebo as its bass sound, but did I muted the end of the string closest to me to create this kind of sound. More
Oh.
airy, kind of like
Yeah.
warm sound. So I coupled that with the ebo to create a clarinet sound, which has those
Does
qualities.
the ebo kind of create different, I guess, different qualities of sound depending on which register in the piano you are? Like, does the
Um,
lower register ring differently?
Yeah, actually, the lower register does not ring with the ebo.
Does it?
No, it does. Either I haven't figured it out yet, or it's the strings are too thick for
Thick.
it. I think you would need like a industrial sized.
Too
I'm
thin.
putting out a call for that right now, like Kickstarter.com, Ebo.
Come on,
Yes, let's do it. Yeah, yes,
nerds,
exactly.
make it.
A market of one right here. Yeah, because even within the same instrument group, like some registers of notes sounded a lot more like the instrument than others. Like for instance, in the higher register, like I couldn't make, I couldn't like replicate a clarinet sound as easily. It just ended up sounding something else, like a flute, which is kind of how I did the flutes as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, what other techniques did you use to kind of create? I think the easiest one, the most obvious one, is to create the type of percussion that is used in
Yes,
the
the
score.
tam tam, the bass
A
drums.
tam
Yes, it's so
tam.
satisfying. I just had to do this.
Just
Yeah,
hit it.
just like
Just
you
hit
feel it,
it.
like it's thunderous.
That is
Yeah,
good.
it's
There's
actually like,
violence.
yeah, you can feel it. It's like I'm getting a massage.
Yeah,
The organs
yeah.
are getting a massage, and that was really fun. And yes, I mean, yeah, basically for all these things, for percussion at least, that was easier, so much easier. And yeah, I just had the click track in my ear and just kind of played. Whereas with all the other instruments, there wasn't none of that. I basically recorded every note that I could, every pitch, with every implement. and then I know in the later part of our excerpt, there's like a trio of solos between the violin, cello, and then bass clarinet, which oh man, that sucks. My biggest regret is that I can't make the bass clarinet happen the way I wanted it to because of
I
the
thought you were
bass.
gonna say your biggest regret is that you didn't also master the bass
There's
clarinet.
that too. There's that too. Yeah, I know, right?
So I guess then is there any other sorts of sound worlds that you explored?
Oh, actually, sorry. One thing I was gonna say is that uh, the later part with the violin solos, there's a lot more clear articulation, and so in the upper registers or wherever the first violin has their solo notes, I also did more aggressive bowing to get that like kind of really nice accented scratchy
Yeah.
sound of the bow. So that was actually kind of fun. It sounded like a horror movie in here.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I guess it sounds like a horror movie
I mean,
in
it
general. Yeah,
does. In
yeah,
general,
yeah,
there's something very unsettling about it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It has a "don't go into the basement" kind of a feel
Mhm.
to it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still working on it. Yeah, it's still only recorded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's a few moments where there's a harp, or what I presume to be a harp. And that was just nice, straight up, regular old plucking of the strings.
I mean, the
And
harp is basically the piano body on its
right,
end.
this is a really satisfying note here.
That's good.
Yeah, and yeah, for a harp, I just made sure I really dug in there with my fingertip and plucked from the fleshier part of my finger to create a a rounder sound. That I guess, yeah, harp strings are like thicker and rounder than piano strings, so they just have a warmer sound to it. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think what you're saying is that you are proving that orchestras are now obsolete, and
yeah,
that
yeah.
all,
Hmm. Yep.
and that you're trying to take away some American jobs.
I yeah, because
I guess what's
thanks.
do you have any sort of ending takeaways from a project such as this? Like, is there any life lessons that Brendan Nguyen, doctorate in contemporary music
Oh
performance,
my gosh.
has taken away
You're
from
gonna
this?
you're gonna throw that in my face, my degree. Okay. My takeaway is I don't know. Like um, I love playing, and I love playing around with ideas. And I think to your initial one of the initial questions is like how did I come upon jumping into this idea right away instead of just playing. I mean, based on just the language of the competition itself, I don't know, I didn't see any limitations.
Right.
So I didn't even come at this thinking that I would have any. Although that's generally my MO. You know.
Right.
Yeah. We did ask for some permission here and there, so.
Yeah, we asked
Yeah.
permission. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, we just didn't assume that it was a big open blank canvas.
Yeah.
We could do whatever we wanted. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
you were interpreting a score. That is
Exactly.
what we
Exactly.
do.
Yeah. Primarily, the goal is to at least match or replicate the color palette of an orchestra. And just to add depth and complexity into the sound world.
Yeah, which makes sense. You know, piano reductions only exist for the purpose of rehearsal. You can't pay an orchestra to be at every single opera rehearsal. Operas are already expensive.
Yeah,
you
right,
know?
exactly, yeah.
And so the mere ideological existence of the reduction is just for rehearsal.
Yeah, it's a practical.
Yeah, it's a practical thing.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
in performance, perform it. Let's why
And
not?
there's nothing practical about the Catapult competition.
No.
In fact, it's been one of the most wildly and like amazingly complex endeavors that have happened recently.
Yeah.
I do like the time frame. I know, it is kind of nice.
I kind of do too.
Yeah.
Just, I like it. I mean, I think I've said this a bunch all through like Sofa series nonsense, but like, that I think that with limitations come greater creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
For me, anyway, I am very, very, very stifled when it's just like, oh, just do whatever you want and take as long as you need. Like I can't do that.
Yeah, I know.
I'll constantly edit. I'll constantly say that things are bad and reject ideas and not let really kind of consider ideas because like, oh well, that's immediately obviously stupid. I'm moving on. I'm gonna try this one now.
Right.
And so I kind of like this fast track structure. It's like have an idea, think it out, talk it out, and then act on it.
Yeah.
Go.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Just do it.
Just do it. Exactly. There's a lot of less room for hemming and hawing, and then like sometimes if a big project is way off, like it's impractical to be working on certain things on it, but it's still on your mind. It's taking up space, and the immediacy of this has been fun, and it's almost over. Oh my God.
We have 1 week left.
We have 1 week left. Oh, we're great.
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's going to be great. And I think that said this to you already in private, but I think the worst possible scenario I can even come up with is that all of the submissions are amazing.
Yeah, like I'm excited. I'm so excited to see like what everyone else has been doing.
How else do people kind of consider these limitations? How are they thinking about these pieces?
Exactly.
I'm excited. I think it's
going to be. It's like there was 6 total excerpts to choose from, right?
Well, there were 4 excerpts, and then they ended up choosing 16.
16. Okay, right. Okay.
There was like everybody was amazing.
Yeah.
So it's
going to be
it's
going to be awesome.
A great show.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited for this whole thing to come together. I'm excited for this thing to be over. But thanks for taking a time out to talk to me about this process.
Oh yeah, thanks for singing and doing this, and
that's all I do. Sure.
All right.
I just realized I think it's paint on my sleeve.
Oh, are you painting?
No, this is like from forever ago.
Oh, okay.
I think this is the great allegory of my life. A spot that looks like blood.
Oh
on
my God.
Sleeve.
Why?
for this whole interview.
I think anybody sees it until now. Now I can't unsee it now. I cannot unsee it.
Yeah, so let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
I'll go change. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
All
Say
right.
goodbye to the people.
Oh, goodbye to the people.
To the people. to our moms.
Yes, bye, Mom. Love you.
Bye, Mom.